Everybody to the November 12th, 2025 City of Edina Planning Commission meeting. As I say every time, we appreciate your curiosity, your participation, and your feedback, specifically regarding the ways in which we'd like to use land in the city and the change that's around that. So we have kind of a busy agenda tonight. We have a couple public hearings, and then we have a sketch plan review. Just want to clarify some things for some people too. As we get through the meeting, we have a community comment period, and that's your chance to testify about a matter not on tonight's agenda. And the two public hearings, you will have a chance to testify during those. As for the sketch plan review, that is simply, if you're here to attend for that, that is simply an opportunity, if you're tuning in or here in person, for informational participation. So it's a chance for us as a commission to provide non-binding feedback to the applicant. And it's your chance as an audience to just simply tune in and get information on that. There won't be a point to participate and share testimony regarding that. That would come when it's an official public hearing later. In the meantime, there will be an opportunity to continue to share comments on bettertogetheredina.org, which is the kind of catch-all for all city participation related to anything land use. So if you're not familiar with that, head to www.bettertogether.edina.org and participate that way. It's our commitment to you that any and all feedback that we receive for the public hearings is considered before we make a recommendation to either approve or deny those tonight. And with that, I'll just give you a rundown of the agenda. We'll call this to order, then do a roll call, approve tonight's agenda, the prior meeting minutes, and then it's that community comment period, which I'll get into. And then we have two public hearings followed by the one sketch plan review. And then it is chair and member comments, staff comments, and adjournment. Without further ado, call the meeting to order, and then a roll call.
Commissioner Nelson.
Here.
Commissioner Alkire.
Here.
Commissioner Padilla.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Ja.
Here.
Commissioner Just. Commissioner Day.
Here.
Commissioner Bornstein.
Here.
Commissioner Felt.
Here.
Commissioner Hanneman. Here. Chair Bennett.
Here. Next, we have the approval of tonight's meeting agenda.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Next, we have the approval of the prior meeting minutes from October 29th. If there aren't any proposed changes, I'd welcome a motion also.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right, next we have the community comment. So similar to a public hearing, this is your chance to testify about a matter not on tonight's agenda. And we're doing things a little differently out of privacy. We have a new process in place that the city council has done, so we're following suit. We have this speaker registration card. Right, so typically if you come before us and speak, we ask you to state your name and address, but so that you're not broadcasting your address out to the public out of privacy, I guess, considerations, we ask if you plan to speak to just head over and fill out this card. It has your name and address. That won't be shared with anyone. It's just kept in private records just to make sure that you're a resident. So if you're planning to speak for either the community comment or either public hearing tonight, at any point you can come over there and just fill out this card. And if you don't want to fill out this card and you're still willing to share your name and address, please do so. So that's how it kicks off for community comment. If you have anything that you'd like to share that's not on tonight's agenda, you can come up to either podium. And you have 3 minutes to do so. When the light turns green, go. When it turns red, I'll ask you to wrap it up. And this is only for people who are here in person. The public hearing is similar, but that we allow people to tune in and participate remotely. Is anyone here for community comment? All right. So we will move on from community comment, and now we're on to our public hearing. So again, if you plan to testify about either of these, you can come up to the side and fill out that card, or if you're okay just stating your name and address, you can when we get to the public hearing portion. But so you know what to expect for a public hearing process. There's a few steps. So one, it begins with someone wanting to do something with their land that doesn't quite conform to our city code. They put in for a request to essentially vary from the code. City staff does a bunch of research, looks at the code, puts together a staff report for us based on facts and findings. They collaborate with other departments and sometimes commissions. And then they put that together into the form of a presentation tonight that you'll see, we'll see. And then it's our chance for a back and forth with staff, questions. We also open it to the applicant to provide their own presentation, and we have a similar exchange. After that point, we'll open it to a public hearing where it's your chance to testify for up to 3 minutes. After we close the public hearing, we bring it back to the commission to deliberate and make a recommendation for approval or denial of the request. As I said, we have 2 of them tonight, and the first one is a variance at 5213 60th Street West, and Addison Lewis will present. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, Chair, Commissioners. This is a request for a 10.1-foot setback variance from the required 50-foot water body setback at 5213 60th Street West. So here's a look at the property in the Birchcrest neighborhood, just on the north side of Birchcrest Pond. The property contains a one-story home with a walkout basement. The home was built in 1956. The property is about 14,300 square feet in area. However, about 5,144 square feet is occupied by water, which significantly limits the buildable area on this property. As I mentioned, it's a one-story home with a walkout basement. So on the existing lower level, there is a sunroom that comes out from the back of the house. The applicants, I should note here too that this sunroom is non-conforming with respect to the required 50-foot setback from the water body. It's at 39.9 feet setback currently. The applicant's proposing to replace that existing lower level space and also expand it by about 2.6 feet to the east. They would maintain that existing 39.9 foot setback, and then they would like to also build living space directly above that. So to replace and expand the lower level is actually allowed under the code. It's that addition to that additional story above for the main level that triggers the need for the variance. So here's just a look at some of their elevation drawings. So this is from the south, so looking like from the water. And then a west elevation and east elevation. So it comes out about 16 feet from the edge of the house. And then just a floor plan here showing the dimensions. And then a rendering here just to kind of give you some sense of the scale with the adjacent properties. So Minnesota statute requires that this criteria here be met in order for the city to issue a variance. I've laid out staff's findings with respect to this criteria in the report, so I won't go over all of it, but just to kind of briefly summarize what really kind of separates or makes this property unique. As I mentioned, about a third of the property is occupied by water, and so with that 50-foot setback from the edge of the water body, that encroaches about 97 feet from the rear of the property, which is really not a condition that's present on most of these other properties. It is present on the property, or similar conditions exist on the property next door. However, that property is also non-conforming with respect to the setback from the water body. That one is about 43 feet setback. And then you can see kind of as we move either east or west, that shoreline doesn't quite protrude as far into those properties. On the south side of the pond, these lots are quite a bit deeper. These are about 240 to 250 feet in depth, and there's about 75 feet from the edge of the shoreline to the home, whereas on the subject property, it's only about 55 feet from the edge of the shoreline. There are two other properties here that have received similar variances in the early 2000s. So this one here received a variance to build a second story over existing living space and meet the same setback. And then this property here received a similar variance to expand a deck, but meeting the same setback, but they were expanding horizontally, but meeting the existing setback there. So kind of similar requests that have also received variance approval in the past. So tonight, staff is recommending a motion to approve a 10.1 foot setback variance from a water body at 5213 60th Street West, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report. We did receive one comment on Better Together that was in support of the request. So with that, be happy to take any questions you have.
Thank you. And just to keep things streamlined, before we do some questions, answers, we'll open it to the applicant if they happen to be here, if they'd like to provide their own presentation or simply do the same, stand for questions.
Sure.
Just introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kimberly Ani. I'm the applicant on behalf of the homeowners, my parents, who my dad is here today, who are moving to this property for the next chapter of their life to enjoy primarily one-level living coming from a multi-level home. And so part of this addition on the main floor is to enhance the living space of a 75-year-old home to be more accommodating to modern living. So it's going to help them, but being a part of this neighborhood, I happen to live next door in one of the properties. We are really happy to be rehabilitating an original Rambler and enhancing it for, once they're done with it, the next family or young couple or someone starting out to be able to enjoy an original home with a little bit more modernized living space. So that's the benefit. I think Addison has done a great job to describe the technical aspects of it. I want to thank you for your consideration of our application, and thank you for presenting it.
All right. Any questions for either party from the commission? A couple this way. Start with you, Quincy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just curious on the platting that, so much of the plat actually is in the water body, like almost 40% of it. If you have any kind of thoughts on why that would be the case, why would the platting extend so far into the water body, and what would be the homeowner's responsibility of their plat being so far into the water? Do they have any kind of responsibilities to the water body or not?
Yeah, so I believe the plat also was platted in the 50s, and it wasn't until 1992 that the 50-foot setback from the water body came into place. Prior to that, it was only 25 feet. So I think if it had been 50 feet at the time, these probably would have been platted a bit differently. I think this street probably wouldn't have come in so close to the water body because, as you kind of saw from this, I mean, this setback comes back about 97 feet from the back of the property, and then they've got a 30-foot required front yard setback, so it's really just the space between these kind of bold dashed lines. That's kind of the buildable area.
And does the homeowner have any responsibility of the water body itself, like any maintenance or anything like that, or is it just completely something that they just can't touch? They can't do any work in there?
I guess that I don't know. Oh, Greg, to you.
Yeah, I could take that. They don't have any responsibility in the lake. It's not uncommon back in the 30s, 40s to plat into lakes. On some plats in some cities, there's individual lots platted in the middle of lakes, real estate scam kind of thing. But they own to the ordinary high water level of this water body, so they don't have ownership in the lake. It's just to that ordinary high water mark, that dashed line. Nope, it's a little bit to the south there. It's labeled there, the ordinary high water mark. That's actually their property line.
Thank you.
So am I understanding correctly that you want to build up on the first floor and you want to add 42 square feet to the footprint that was below?
Correct.
So would you be able to get the sunroom that you wanted if you didn't get without the 42 extra square feet?
Yes, essentially, it's really about the ease of buildability of 16-foot is equal kind of pieces of building material, plywood, that kind of thing. We just kind of measured it out. And then we also have, there's a window on the back of the house, and we just wanted to get the same window, and it just kind of nicely framed it out. And that piece is not, to do that piece of it, we understood that we could do that. It's really on the lower level. That is not a variance to do that additional 42 feet. So really, we're just squaring it off for the main level.
Okay.
That's the intent.
Okay, thanks.
Addison, could you explain that additional 200 square feet rule about not having to ask for a variance for additional square footage?
Yep, so they can expand up to, as long as it's at, the same, they're maintaining that same existing setback, they can expand, horizontally or parallel to that setback, up to 200 square feet, or the square footage of the existing encroachment, which is about 121 square feet today, that the sunroom encroaches.
And anyone can do that with a kind of non-existing,
Yep, for an existing non-conforming structure, yep,
they can add a little bit to it if they need to.
correct,
Okay,
on the same level, by right.
by right.
Yep,
I've done
it's
that
just
before
going
for
above,
clients.
it's going to that next story that is not allowed by right under the code and triggers the variance.
And can I ask, do the walls of this upper floor, do they align with walls inside?
On the interior, not necessarily. The footprint on the interior for the main floor, while it connects with the interior of the home, it's really just there because it's on the existing structure.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
This is just a general question for my own knowledge, but looking through the engineering memo, there was a note about confirming with the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District if a watershed permit was required. I was just wondering what specifically the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District would be looking at and what would determine whether a permit is required in this situation or not.
Yeah, that is pretty standard that our engineering department will require for any kind of an addition. They have to confirm with the watershed district if they need a permit for erosion control or stormwater management, I believe. So I don't know exactly what the threshold, it's based on the amount of fill or grading or land disturbance. So that's just like a standard for any building permit, even if the variance wasn't required. We need verification from the watershed district that you got a permit from them, or they're saying one wasn't required.
Okay, thanks.
Addison, when we changed setbacks, like we did here in 1992, for whatever reason, the water table or FEMA or whomever drove that decision, do we notify homeowners that are affected?
This was in 1992.
So you weren't here?
I don't know if that was done back then. That was driven by the DNR, so it was actually a statewide thing. Different water bodies are impacted differently. Like larger recreational lakes have like an even greater setback, but it was a statewide process. So I think a lot of people that live on a lake probably heard about it, but I don't know specifically what the city did at that time.
Because didn't we just look at some new adjustments from FEMA maps for floodplains? Like, just wondering, do homeowners ever have the opportunity to address the possible changes to their variant circumstance at the time those decisions are made?
for the city to have amended the code, there would have been a public hearing, and so people could have come and spoken about kind of how it was going to impact their property, and the city council could take that into consideration. However, this, I think, was a mandate by the DNR. So, you know, I'm sure the DNR probably did some outreach and, you know, a lot of talking to people and figuring out how this was going to impact, especially already developed areas, and knew that it was going to make a lot of these properties non-conforming. Yeah.
Is there a picture of the existing sunroom? Or the packet?
I don't have a picture of it existing.
Does it have, the existing sunroom, does it have footings?
Yeah.
Is that it for questions, everyone? All right, thank you. Thank you both. And as I mentioned, this is a public hearing, so anyone who is here that would like to testify can, and those who might be tuning in remotely that would like to testify also can. And since there's a lag between what we're saying and what people see online, we're going to kind of go through that process right now to allow someone to jump in the queue to speak. And then while we wait for that, we'll open the floor here to those who might want to speak about this. So if you're tuning in remotely and like to participate, please call the following number: 312-535-8110. Enter access code 2630-900-6965. Enter password 5454. And then press *3 on your keypad to get in the queue to speak. And while we wait for you to do that, we'll open the floor to those who might be here that would like to testify. Same process as a community comment. You can state your full name and address on air, or you can fill out the card. Come up to either podium. When the light turns green, you got 3 minutes. When it turns red, we'll ask you to wrap up your comments. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in person about this? All right, see no one rushing to the stage. Turn it to you. I guess, how do people fill out a card when they're online? Maybe we got to figure that one out too.
Yeah.
If you could just come into City Hall and then just fill this out and then go back home, and that'd be great. Well, we'll have to figure that out. We're trying new things based on feedback from you guys, so trying to respect privacy and other concerns. Do we have anyone that is in the queue online that'd like to speak?
We do not. So I
That's-
would recommend waiting maybe another 30 seconds.
Okay.
Nobody has joined the queue to speak, so I believe it's safe to proceed.
I welcome a motion to close it.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. So moved. Public hearing is closed. All right, take it back to the Planning Commission to deliberate on this and put together a recommendation for approval or denial. Any discussion or motions?
I would move for approval of the variance 2515 at 5213 West 60th Street West.
Second?
Any further discussion or amendments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nothing. Motion carries unanimously. Good luck on your project. Thank you. All right, public hearing 1 is done with success. Good job, everyone. Thank you. Next, we're on to the second public hearing, which is a side street setback variance at 5801 Fairfax Avenue. And we have Emily to present on that. Same process as before.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Tonight, the request is for a 4-foot side street setback variance at 5801, or 5801, excuse the typo there, but 5801 Fairfax Avenue is approximately 6,500 square feet and is located at the southeast corner of Fairfax Avenue and 58th Street West. The existing structure is a single-story structure that was built in 1956. The property is zoned and guided as single-family residential. The existing primary structure does not meet the required 15-foot side street setback and is 11 feet from the side street setback or the north property line. The applicant is proposing an attached garage addition and is requesting a 4-foot side street setback variance to allow a second-floor addition above the existing first floor and garage addition space. The existing 11-foot setback condition would remain. With the exception of the side street setback, the property does meet all other zoning requirements of the code. I will point out that there was a typo in the staff report, and the building coverage is proposed at 25.5% and not 35.5% as initially written in the staff report, not requesting a variance. And that was in the compliance table, so just wanted to clarify that. Here are the proposed elevations and proposed floor plans with the remodel and addition space. And here are the renderings in context with the neighborhood. So the top is in context along Fairfax Avenue, and the bottom is in context along 58th Street West. As the commission knows, there are certain state statutes and Edina ordinance requirements that require certain conditions be met to grant a variance. Staff believes that in this instance, those requirements are met. The proposed use is permitted in the zoning district and complies with the zoning standards with the exception of the non-conforming side street setback, and the proposed second floor will not increase any nonconformity. The addition is reasonable due to the existing nonconforming setback, and the home will be remodeled and modified within the existing or required setbacks. The nonconforming setback was allowed to be built in its current position on the lot when it was constructed in 1958 and is not a situation that was created by the current property owner. And staff believes that granting a side street setback variance to continue a nonconforming setback on the second floor will not alter the character of the neighborhood. And with that, staff recommends approval of the 4-foot setback variance to allow an 11-foot side street setback for property at 5801 Fairfax Avenue based on the findings and conditions that are listed in the staff report. And with that, I can answer any questions as well as the property owners who are also here tonight.
Thank you, Emily. Same as before, I guess before we have question and answer, open it up to the applicant if they would like to provide a presentation or simply just stand for questions. Just introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jared Bukoviak, and I am the property owner along with my wife, Sammy. And basically, everything that you said is exactly what we would say in our presentation of just requesting that second-story variance of the 4 feet to meet the current 11-foot setback. And I think one of the unique things that I would also note on this lot is that the lot line is actually 17 feet off of where the curb is, so therefore the house is actually an additional 27 feet from the curb itself. And I think that's probably all that I would add.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicant or staff?
Just real quickly, it was mentioned extensive remodeling, but I think in the report somewhere it read to be basically just rebuilding on the existing foundation. Is it a remodel or is it?
I think that was on the surveyor's note, but it was clarified that with the builder that the existing, at least 50% of the existing first floor will remain and has to remain to be considered a remodel.
Good question. And thank you, staff, for the correction noted with the staff report. That's good to hear. Okay, no further questions. Thank you for your time. And then, like before, this is a public hearing, so same process as we noted. If someone just tuned in for the first time and you'd like to participate, I'll give you the same instructions as before. Please call 312, we got on the screen, 535-8110. Enter access code 2630-900-6965. Password is 5454. Enter that. And then press *3 on your keypad to get in the queue to speak. While we wait, We'll turn it to the room. Is anyone here that would like, if anyone is here that would like to testify about this matter, please come up, state your full name and address, or you can go to the card to write your full name and address. And you got 3 minutes to speak. Anyone here for this public hearing? All right, seeing none, I guess we'll turn it to the queue. Do we have anyone in the queue that'd like to speak?
We do not, so I recommend waiting 1 minute.
Let's do 30 seconds. It's been 30 already. All right.
Nobody has joined the queue to speak, so I believe it's safe to proceed.
Welcome a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. Public hearing is closed. Thank you again for staff and the applicant for being here. Turn it over to the Planning Commission to deliberate on this one. Welcome any discussion or motion?
Rebuilding on the same footprint, there's nothing major here. So I would motion to approve the 4-foot side street setback variance at 5801 Fairfax Avenue, subject to the findings and conditions listed in the staff report.
Any further discussion or amendments? Sure.
I have no problem, and will vote in favor of this. I just want to point out that we have maybe not always treated the standard of existing conditions the same, and so I think this is a reasonable request, but I'm putting that out for my fellow commissioners to think about, that sometimes we say, oh, this existed in the house when you bought it, so you need to work through it, and the cost prohibiting factors don't play in here. If I'm understanding correctly, the garage and the space above it are new and being added, so I just want to highlight that so that we think about being uniform in how we look at these variances.
Any further discussion or amendment? Sure.
I also appreciate, it does add the garage to the house, but it takes down the garage, which is closer to one of the side yards, so it provides for more space between the two houses, so I think it's well done.
All right. I guess if there's no further amendments or discussion, put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Good luck on your project. Thank you for coming. As noted, both public hearings featured proposals that are making the most out of what they had and reusing things instead of tearing houses down and rebuilding, which is good to see. So thank you, everyone. All right, we're moving on now from our public hearings to reports and recommendations. And we have one tonight, and that's a sketch plan review for 5780 Lincoln Drive for a quick trip. So a little different than the public hearings, a sketch plan, similar process. Edina isn't unique in this, but it's something we added, 15 years ago to the process or longer. And that gives us as a community a chance to provide non-binding feedback and see proposals before they're formal proposals, to try to either get it on the right track, provide feedback so that when it comes in for a formal proposal, let's just say the details of the project are a little more palatable to the city or the community, or more in line with the comprehensive plan or small area plan, et cetera. And so tonight we have Director Teague presenting on this, and then we'll have the applicant, and then it'll just be an exchange back and forth between the commission and the applicant and staff. And again, just non-binding feedback for residents. No chance to testify tonight about this, but an informational chance to learn about the project and then share your feedback later. All right, with that, Carrie, take it away.
All right, thank you, Chair, members of the commission. So this property is located on the far west end of town along Highway 169 at the intersection of Lincoln and Londonderry. The property is currently zoned planned industrial district. It's guided in our comprehensive plan for neighborhood node. This is located in the area where we recently completed the Lincoln and Londonderry small area plan. But the site was guided for neighborhood node. Just want to quickly read the land use description for a neighborhood node. In general, small to moderate scale commercial, residential, or mixed use buildings serving primarily the adjacent neighborhoods. We have a number of neighborhood node districts in the city. The 44th in France, there's a few properties here, 54th in France, the Valley View Wooddale area, and also 70th and Cahill in the industrial park. Also guided that same neighborhood node. Just want to point out that within these neighborhood nodes, the 54th in France, there's a Speedway gas station there, and there's also an auto repair. In the Valley View and Wooddale district, it's now the town hall station. Yeah, it was a gas station within that node. And then the 70th in Cahill, there's also another Murphy Automotive repair shop down there. Other gas stations in town, but don't have that neighborhood node designation. So the proposal here this evening, or sketch proposal, is to tear down the existing 22,000 square foot office and build a just over 9,000 square foot Quick Trip. There would be 10 fueling stations on the north side of the site. The building itself would be on the south side. There would be no car wash on this site. As Planning Commission is aware, we have the capacity issue there, so couldn't support a car wash with the amount of water that's used, so there's no car wash proposed here. They are also proposing to be open 24 hours. Access to the site would be off an existing shared access with the property owner to the north, off of Lincoln Drive. As with any formal request, of course, a parking and traffic study would be done to take a look at that entrance and how it works with that property to the north, and of course the intersections. There is a sidewalk proposed along Lincoln Drive. That was a key feature in the small area plan. We're looking for boulevard trees and extensive landscaping along there. Not a lot of details here as it's a sketch plan. Access off of the existing sidewalk here, possibly to connect to the store. There's a patio proposed out in this location, and the trash dumpster area would be located here. This isn't the specific building proposed, just an example. I'm sure you're all familiar with Quick Trips. So there's what a potential building could look like. Looking at the compliance table, there's a number of variances that would be required with a formal application. I'll quickly show those. The drive aisle here, it's an existing condition, but a 10-foot side setback is required there. Along the entrance ramp to 169, the proposal here is a 7-foot setback, so there would be a variance required there. The idea there is to push the use further away from Lincoln to try to increase landscaping and things along here. Again, there's quite a distance, green space between the property line and the entrance ramp, so that one could be justified. City code also requires a 10-foot setback from a building to the parking spaces, so essentially a sidewalk along the building. They're proposing 6 and 8 feet here. They could either adjust that or a variance would be needed there as well. The location of the trash, city code doesn't allow those in a front yard, so we'd likely want to see that relocated, or again, they could apply for a variance. Possibly swap out the patio area with this. Take advantage of some of those views to the creek. let's see, parking stalls. Based on the square footage of the building, 39 parking stalls are required. They're proposing 32. Again, there would be a parking study that would go along with any formal application. And then the last two, you recall, we require a 20-foot ceiling height for the first floor. They wouldn't meet that, so a variance would be requested. And also that 75% transparency along the street frontages. In addition to all those variances, this would require a rezoning from the planned industrial district to PCD 4. That's the district where gas stations, automotive type uses are allowed. So I will stop there and introduce Dean George from Quick Trip, and he's got a short presentation, and then we can take your comments and questions after that.
Thanks, Carrie. So I am Dean George with Quick Trip, 1626 Oak Street, La Crosse, Wisconsin. We can go through this presentation if you guys want. I guess high level, I'll tell you, we've only had this property under contract for about a month. We put it under contract in very, very early October, pretty immediately met with Carrie right afterwards to get some feedback preliminary from city staff. He urged us to get a sketch plan together and get it in front of you guys. I understand that there was a Lincoln, Londonderry small area plan just completed. A lot of work, I think, was gone into that. I did some reading over the weekend. It was 95 pages, a lot of good stuff. The big highlight to me was the importance of community engagement in coming at what you guys wanted to see for this particular area. So we wanted to get this plan in front of you before we spent too much time and energy figuring out if it's a use that you guys would be supportive of in this neighborhood. From Quick Trip's perspective, the primary two things we look for when identifying a good convenience store site are an abundance of neighborhood and an abundance of traffic. This site certainly has both. I myself am an Edina resident. I think that if you live anywhere south of Interlochen or north of the crosstown on the west side of 100, your options for gas and convenience are extremely limited, and there are an extremely large amount of people that live there. I guess we can spin through this presentation a little. So some quick facts about us as an organization. We employ about 39,000 people in the states we operate. We own and operate 900-ish convenience stores. We're opening probably 3 a week for the next 5 or 6 weeks. Our standard Gen 3 build is 9,200 square feet. Each store employs about 40 to 60 people with a good mix of full and part-time. It's a great opportunity for high school kids, for retirees, or anybody else who wants to work in our stores. So there's kind of the breakdown of where we're located: Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, South Dakota. We're opening North Dakota next month, and then we'll be opening North Sioux City, Nebraska next year. And we're a continued expansion in all 7 states. So we're privately owned, privately operated. So every store is corporate owned. There are no franchise opportunities. So the Zietl family out of La Crosse, Wisconsin owns all 900 and some odd stores. The second generation is currently chief leadership. First generation is still board member emeritus, and all generations are actively involved. Oldest members of Gen 4 now are, I think, graduating high school, 18 years old. So they're all around La Crosse, Wisconsin. Some critical growth years: started in 1965, 1 store. 2024, now we have 910 stores. 2 main things to mention in this particular slide. 1989, we had a consolidation of ownership, went from 3 partners to 2. And then in 2000, we again consolidated, where the Zietl family bought out the other partner, and now they own 100% of us. Critical thing to mention, in 1989 was when our 40% profit sharing plan was founded. What that is the owners of the Quick Trip give to the people that work in our stores and work in our corporate support center 40% of the pre-tax profits back to the employees every year in the form of cash bonus and profit sharing matching. What it does is it helps every employee there understand that they have an impact on the store's growth and they have an impact on their own cash compensation. It helps us keep industry turnover very, very low. So we boast about a 35% turnover level. Industry standard is about 100. Everybody knows in working in our stores, our coworkers know that the more goals that they can hit and the more profitability they hit and the cleaner they can keep it and the better they can serve the guests, the more they have the potential to earn. So that was born in 1989. And it is still a thing today. We don't need to show this slide. There's that. So we are fully vertically integrated. We make it, we ship it, we sell it, is kind of what we say. So we have a large campus in La Crosse that has bakery, commissary, dairy. ice production, LP, blow mold, you name it, we do it in La Crosse and we ship it to all of our stores. We have a full fleet of transport vehicles that ship product daily to our stores around the market, and that's why all of our bakery products are so fresh. We also have a big culture of caring, so we give back anniversary and birthday gifts to coworkers. We have paid sabbatical after 20 years of service. We have a thing in the office called Families Helping Families. If your family has fallen on hard times, or there's a hardship or a loss or a grief, you can apply for compensation or aid from Quick Trip, and everyone kind of chips in. We service a lot of families, same as Neighbors Helping Neighbors, same concept. And then we do partner with a lot of local food banks in all the markets that we serve. Generally rated as a top employer. You see Iowa, we're number 1, Wisconsin number 2, Minnesota number 18. I think that speaks to how good a market we are in Minneapolis-St. Paul. But generally speaking, Quick Trip is the market leader and the industry leader in gas and convenience retail. So I can stand for questions on this particular development. You guys can tell me we don't want it and I can leave and I can find a different spot in town, but I would love to build this one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the information, transparency, and welcome discussion with the rest of the Planning Commission. Questions either for staff as well as the applicant. Yeah, you got it.
Thanks so much for being here. I spent an odd amount of time at gas stations in and around the city this weekend, and wondering if you could speak to a little bit about why this scale is the scale that works for Quick Trip, both in terms of the retail space and the number of pumps, and what sort of modeling you did to see to find that right balance.
So, great question. I think on other locations around the metro that are on a highway similar to 169, we would try and scale it larger. So I think most of those have a 2-lane side diesel fueling island with a little bit larger space. So if we just put a truck stop up in Dayton that's astronomically larger than this, it has 5 lanes of diesel fuel, we don't want to do that here. The 9176 square foot store is the standard prototype we build now in communities of this size. So the 10 fueling positions, which does serve 20 vehicles at a time, that is also standard. So the Gen 310 MPD setup is the standard setup at Quick Trip. Then we only deviate from that if space constraints want us to move downward.
So Edina is not standard. So could you talk to me a little bit about how did you land at 10 and what other configurations you may have explored for this space? And then also, where are the options for gas that may not be in the city but that would serve those residents?
The Edina residents?
Yeah, I mean, presuming you've done some marketing and figured out where the demand is, that's part of how you landed on this site. Just wondering how you thought about sizing it based on the competition that's already existing. So you said in Dayton, it's a lot bigger.
Yes.
Knowing that it's Edina, how did you come to 10 and this size store?
So we don't want to attract the diesel customer into Edina, into this neighborhood, is kind of the thing. There's no easy on and off to get back to a diesel pump into this location like there is in Dayton. I think we are upsizing this store from competitors in the market because we think there's more need for a little bit more gas.
But that doesn't speak to the store, sorry. I guess it's 2 separate questions.
Okay.
I understand we're not putting diesel because we don't want diesel trucks to fill up here, but this is for regular gasoline cars. You would have wanted to put more pumps, but landed at 10. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, I think yes and no. It's kind of, we don't have space to expand it east-west to add more lanes. I don't think is the answer. Nor we can accommodate all the business we need to accommodate out of the 10 setup. I wouldn't want to shrink it. I think if you downsize pumps, you start getting more congestion on site, which is what we do see in some of the competitors around, I don't want to say this town, but a lot of the metro has a much smaller setup.
Yeah, I mean, the stores that I went to, they all have, I think, less than what you're proposing here and are functioning quite well. So I think I'm trying to understand how you come to think about the sizing of the convenience store, why you want it to be bigger, what the hole is that you feel exists in the market that you're trying to address by that square footage, and then why not 8? Why not 6, like some of the other local neighborhood node gas stations?
Because we think the demand justifies 10. We really do.
Yeah, you can just keep coming down the line.
You know, similar to Commissioner Hunneman, I was trying to think of gas stations that were this large in the metro area. And the only ones I could think of were the Costco, which is in the middle of a more commercial area, most of the Costco's. And the ones I go to in my neighborhood, which are neighborhood, I live close to a neighborhood node, only has 4 pumps. Well, 2 pumps, so serves 4 cars. And I think the one down on 54th in France serves
4 or 6.
2 islands with 2 each, so it serves 8 cars. And I've never had an issue finding an open pump at any of those. So I think for me, you know, I'm kind of trying to think through, you know, the whole neighborhood node, how this serves the neighborhood. And I think the number of pumps is more about the location next to the 169 and not necessarily for the neighborhood. You know, if I'm thinking about this for a neighborhood, if it, you know, and it's a place for them to gather, I don't necessarily see a quick trip. I see if it had uses where the teenagers could come hang out, or people could pick something up for, you know, taking home, or grab a little bite, not necessarily a place that makes food, but so the size of the convenience store and the types of products it sells doesn't seem like it's necessarily associated with a neighborhood, or kind of a neighborhood thing, that it's more about the interstate. And I don't think there's necessarily a question in there, but I think for me, what I would say is like if this could be more local produce rather than made somewhere and kind of shipped in, and if there were only like you know, a couple of pumps, and if it could be, you know, a more boutique store. I mean, I don't think that's in Quick Trip's business plan. But I'd see something much smaller than this there.
And I'd add that none of the gas stations have some of these that are existing now, have some of these requirements. I personally see a lot of opportunity to better serve the community by getting variances for, you know, you have to have a sidewalk around the building or whatnot. I would much rather see fewer pumps, a good store that serves the neighborhood. You'll have the benefit of being on 169, but right now it feels like, as Commissioner Merriweather said, it feels like it's for the people on 169, not the people in Edina.
We'll look at it. So Commissioner Felt, have you shopped at our stores? Because we do offer a plethora of grab-and-go items, prepared food, hot food, places to gather, interior. They're very nice on the interior, I will say.
Just starting to do the Guy Fieri stuff?
No, I don't think so, no.
What is it?
That's Casey.
Yeah.
So we introduced the hot food program in a Quick Trip in about 2001. We kind of got rid of the Cokes and Smokes model that dominated the C-store industry for the last 60 years. And now a pure majority of our inside sales business is prepared food, fried chicken, pizza, burger, soup, bakery items, that type of thing. So there are a lot of great grab-and-go options that you can get from our interior.
Yeah, and I understand that. I just for me, if I was going to someone's house for dinner over there, and I wanted to stop and gas up, but also kind of pick up something to bring to someone's house, I don't. I'm looking for something other than the grab and go. The grab and go for me, the only time I avail myself of those are when I'm like driving across the country and I'm on an interstate and I stop at and get gassed up. And that's like the only time I go to those. I don't see the neighborhood kind of going down there to get candy and hot food necessarily. So I see your product kind of serving the interstate and not necessarily both the gas and the.
I think we can agree to disagree on that. I think there's plenty of people from the neighborhood that might want to grab a Gatorade and a soda or something of that
That's
nature.
absolutely fine.
Yeah, this is definitely one that's going to have a variety of perspectives, for sure. Might as well just keep coming down the line with comments or discussion points. And again, this isn't limited to just applicant. It can be staff. It can be amongst each other too.
Well, and we can have a discussion after the question. This is questions, right?
Well, it's a little of both because there's no recommendations necessarily.
Oh, this is all.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, so you said you read the small area plan, right?
Yeah.
I didn't lead that. Commissioner Day and others were really involved with that. A lot of people in the neighborhood and the community were really involved with that. I wasn't as much, but when you read it, did you come away with the impression that what the work that folks had done and the vision that people had put together, that a gas station was kind of what was being envisioned, like a gas station and a large one was what was being envisioned by that work from a planning perspective?
I didn't get that takeaway, no.
Okay. That was just what I was wondering, because if you had, I was going to say, like, how do you see it kind of lining up with?
There's one mention in that small area plan that says, some residents or whoever was responding to the survey thought that the area would be better served with some additional amenities, such as grocery, which we do provide.
Yeah.
I forget what page that was on, but that's about the only mention that I heard to kind of our traditional services.
Okay. All right. Yeah. By the way, I think this is an interesting presentation, interesting business. It sounds like you guys do a lot of great work and have a good company, so I appreciate all that.
Thank you.
I don't think that this is this type of use in this place is what was envisioned by the small area plan. And I don't think the rezoning to a district that's just for gas stations and car washes is what was envisioned by that output. So personally, I think it's maybe the wrong spot but not a bad business, not a bad concept, probably the wrong location, given all the planning work that's gone around this site.
Yeah, I understand that completely. But when I come back for a different spot, I get your support.
Well, it depends.
I'm just kidding.
It depends, but we're like supportive of businesses that
I
want to
get it,
invest
yeah.
in this city. There's certain parts of the city that there's a different vision for, in my opinion, but appreciate you being here. Involved with that, to speak to whether they disagree or agree or have other observations.
I mean, I pretty much echo what you just said, Will, and say, I was born and raised in Wisconsin, so I'm very familiar with Quick Trip. It's very nice. It's probably the top of the gas station, hierarchy in terms of amenities it provides, and there are a lot of great things about Quick Trip in terms of, yes, the grocery and stuff like that, so I'm familiar with that. But as Commissioner Bornstein said, I was part of that Lincoln-Londonderry small area plan. Spent a lot of time talking to the residents in this room tonight, and yeah, I would agree that this isn't really what we envisioned for this spot. And I think you have a tall ask, and also in terms of the zoning change, the number of variances required, and just getting community buy-in here. So
I will comment on the variances required. We haven't gone down a design path, so we don't know if all those are going to be necessary. I'm guessing a clear majority of them will be, but there are some that we can probably limit out with design changes.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, it just pretty much echoes what people have said about the neighborhood, the amenities, and et cetera. And it's not, I mean, Quick Trip, again, parts of Quick Trip, yes, I think do better than other gas stations would in terms of fulfilling that need and what we talked about for amenities, grocery, et cetera. But the rest of the Quick Trip, in terms of, the traffic, the number of gas station stalls, et cetera, isn't really what we were looking for here. So I'll just say that.
I'm just going to echo what the previous commissioner said. I mean, I live like a 4-minute walk from the proposed Quick Trip, and I don't really think it's the location, especially since I was also keeping track of the small area plan discussions when that thing was happening, and it doesn't feel very in line. No.
Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate sharing that business, right, and the family style that it's located. That's driving it. Just a couple of thoughts. I read through the small area plan, was not 100% in all the meetings, but attended a couple of the discussions. And, the sense that came out from that was, this is a very nature kind of picturesque, quiet, not necessarily quiet, but because it's on a highway there, but the folks in the area really appreciated the ability to walk, to not have congestion, just that neighborhood feel, right? And I think that's the essence of what some folks on the commission are pointing out. At the same time, when the plan was put together, right, it didn't state specifically what should be there. And so folks like yourself will identify opportunities, bring them forward, and test the idea to see, does this fit, right? I think one thing that would have been great to come out of the small area plan was maybe just a couple concepts of ideas of what could be there. So things like a health hub or something like that could, bring folks' mind around that idea of maybe something like a healthy option gym, something like that. When you look at the demographics of the folks that live in that region, that might be something they might be interested in. A couple of other ideas could be a food shed, farmers market, idea. I'm just kind of putting out ideas, which are things that if the discussions kind of said, I would love to see this kind of thing, then that would help guide folks like yourself to say, here's what they're looking for, because it's not called out specifically. Family rec center, where folks could come and bring kids, hang out, play pickleball courts, these kind of things. I'm just saying that because the small area plan didn't call out specifically, but these would be concepts of what could go there. That being said, the discussion on congestion, I think, makes sense too, right? Where in some of these nodes that we have within Edina, it's kind of embedded. These gas stations, for example, are embedded in the neighborhood, centralized. So the residents that would be using them would be folks that are basically 360 degrees from Edina, right? So you could afford to have a 4-lane or 4-pump station and not be congested, because we're not dealing with massive amounts of traffic coming through. I appreciate your idea with not having the diesel stations, so trucks wouldn't come through. And this location is literally abutting a highway and the neighborhood. And if you were to reduce the size, as you're mentioning, to let's say 6 pumps or something like that, someone on the highway is going to see a quick trip and say, hey, I want to stop there, but then 10 other guys are going to say the same thing. And before you know it, there's a line of cars trying to get in that's causing congestion to get out of Lincoln and Londonderry, right? And I'm sure you don't want that. So it had to be 10. So we avoid the congestion issue, right? So I could get the size concept there. But overall, I think based on the comprehensive, the small area plan and the takeaways that folks had, I'm not sure if the gas station model is something that folks get excited about, but folks might be more excited about the convenience store. Not necessarily this particular convenience store, but maybe along those lines, a place where they could pick up groceries, shop, these kind of things would be more palatable in my point of view, but I don't know. I'll be leaning heavily on the folks that were involved with the neighborhood node and the small area plan feedback, like what they gathered from that conversation, to see what neighbors want. Else we're going to have more meetings like this one, where you pitch it, we bounce around, we kind of have a sense of if it's going to fit, and then you go back, and then someone else is going to come up with something else, right? So it's how do we figure out what's the best use of this space that would make the residents feel comfortable with that without having, not random, but like different developers pitching ideas? That's kind of my question to the team, to see how can we narrow this down to a few concepts that would actually work, so then we attract the right developers to come here and we could have a more progressive conversation. I'm not saying no, but I'm not sure if a gas station is going to be the best concept here.
I hear you. I think the problem you're kind of describing is you have this guided, so to speak, for retail commercial. So you're going to get an abundance of retail commercial users who want to utilize the space kind of however they want to, which is kind of why I'm here. But I understand all of your concerns and your feedback, so thank you.
That's it.
I'm going to start with a couple questions. First of all, you left out the car wash because of sewer capacity issues. So without regard to the car wash, there is no sewer capacity issue?
I don't think so. I mean, again, we haven't had it designed specifically with, plans, but not that I know of, no. I can't imagine, no.
Okay. And then when Director Teague introduced it, he talked about a gas station, or that's what we've been talking about, a gas station with a convenience store. In the applicant narrative, you called it a convenience store with a canopy for pumps, which begs the question, what's your revenue breakdown between the two sources?
I think most stores probably have more sales inside than they do outside. If I had to put them all into a box, shake it out, drop the average, I'd say you'd sell more inside than you do outside.
Okay, you're talking about what total dollars is my question.
Total dollars, I can't tell you. Total dollars, fuel gallon is heavily, it varies all over the place.
Okay, so I'm trying to get a feel for the person who comes in, your customer is going to buy gas and stop and get something to eat. They're going to do both, or the people in the neighborhood are going to sometimes just stop for a convenience store. The people on the highway are sometimes just going to stop. I'm trying, do you understand what I'm
I get what
trying
you get. I get what you're getting at.
for here?
I think the average customer is more than likely going to stop, if you're on the highway, to use the bathroom and grab something to eat, not necessarily gas dependent. So I think there is more stuff sold inside of the store than more customers ring the register inside than outside.
Okay. All right, that helps,
Yeah.
which is not a revenue breakdown, but it's a customer breakdown. It's a customer breakdown.
That's really the easiest way for us to do it because your gas margin it varies market to market, store to store.
Okay. And you said because the food is fresh, you have daily deliveries.
Correct.
And that's one truck basically that comes in and delivers all of your fresh goods?
And truthfully, about 80% of the product. So we have central distribution warehouse out of La Crosse. We don't want to have the Old Dutch guy and the Frito-Lay's guy and the Hershey guy and the Coke guy and the Pepsi guy all drop in product at the same time. So they all deliver to us in Wisconsin, in La Crosse, and then we'll put it on one of our quick trip trucks and ship it up.
And how often do you get gas delivered?
It depends on how much gas you're selling. I would say conservatively twice a week we'll do fuel drop, twice or three, 2.5 times.
Okay, so would you say you're a gas station or a convenience store?
I would say we're a convenience store.
Okay.
I would say the senior leadership at Quick Trip in 1988 or 9, when we had a consolidation of owners the first time, the senior leaders all came to us from Gateway Foods, which they ran Rainbow Foods up in this market, if you guys remember those stores. Their emphasis always has been what's inside the box is greater than what's outside the box. So they really understand that you need a clean interior, you need quality product, you need clean bathrooms. Inside takes precedence over outside. So I would say we're a convenience store.
Okay. I don't think that this is, I think comparing a project like this to the gas stations, particularly like the Speedway on 54th and France, that's apples and oranges because that's a very, very small, plot of land. All they can have is a few, a few pumps, a few cars at a time. It's hard to turn around. And yet, everyone in the neighborhood still goes there for milk. and 100 other things. So even though the convenience store is probably 2% of the size of yours, you know, it still serves, it does serve a neighborhood purpose in terms of groceries. And you're the ones with the commercial about somebody's going over to like the in-laws house for dinner, so they stop at Quick Trip to buy food to bring for dinner.
Sounds like us, yeah.
Okay.
I don't watch that much TV. Sounds like us, yeah.
Bit of a stretch,
Yeah.
but I understand where you're heading with your marketing. And I think the last thing that I will say is clearly the economics of what you're trying to do is based upon the fact that you are by the highway, and that's going to drive a lot of your business. So I think if you want it to make it attractive to the western part of Edina and to the city council and to everybody here, you need to work on, you know, some community involvement pieces and something that's really going to attach you to the neighborhood. That's all I have got.
A couple questions for staff. Carrie, you mentioned the other gas stations in neighborhood note. I thought it was pretty interesting. But when I was listening to you talk about that, it was, I don't have the data handy, but it seemed likely that all of those were already there before that was designated NN. Does that sound right to you?
That does sound right to me, yes.
Okay. And then is it possible to get that site plan back up again for a sec? Yeah, that one. I can't remember, and maybe one of the folks who was on the small area plan can refresh our memory. So there's a bike facility that goes from 9 Mile Creek towards the tunnel that goes under 169. How does that path relate to this plot? Is it right on the east side of it?
Yeah, it runs along Lincoln Drive and goes north. The tunnel is further north.
The small area plan highlighted that the Strava data says they like to go over instead of under.
Right. So does it go to, is it on Lincoln Drive?
Yes.
On the right side, or I guess it would be on both sides of the street?
It's the bike side, the bike path is on the east side.
Okay.
Path, but I think there is a trail, or I mean, there's markings
On the west side?
on both sides.
The trail's on the east side.
Yeah, the bike.
trail itself, the grade
Okay.
trail that's apart from the street, but
Okay. For this to be good, for this to be a good store, about how many cars need to come every day for you to be happy? Plus or minus 10%. I'm just curious about
Come back to me on that. I'll do some math in my head.
It seems like it'd be a lot, but I don't.
It's a decent amount, yeah. It's
Okay.
I would say I need to sell in the tens of thousands of gallons of fuel on a weekly basis, if that helps you.
No.
Probably more than, yeah, see, I figured that wasn't going to help, yeah.
Okay. But thanks. Okay. Thanks for that. And thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I've been to many, many Quick Trips and had a good experience
time.
at all of them. There's one in particular in Wyndham that I went to regularly on my trips back and forth to the west, and I always look forward to stopping there for gas and something to eat. So it's great. It's a great store.
That's an old Cenex, thank you.
Just listening particularly to the folks who are involved in the small area plan, I just can't get past, I can't personally find a way to make a Quick Trip match up to the terminology in the small area plan serving primarily the adjacent neighborhoods. And as from listening to them talk, I feel like this is not what they were after and what we are after as a city. So that would be probably the most direct feedback I could give. But thank you very much for coming.
yeah, I echo that. Thank you for being here and presenting. Just a few comments, really. I definitely see the need and the reason you selected the site. I mean, it's available, and there's not gas on 169. You go down to Anderson Lake Parkway, maybe to the south, and I think it might be Plymouth on the north, where you would see a gas station off the freeway, and east and west. Not that you're really on Crosstown, but you know, you go a couple miles over to where there's a BP near the Opus area. And then it's probably Inver Grove Heights before you get to another one going east. So I understand the desire to be seen and be out there. Are all your stores 24/7?
They are not.
Okay. Because I see that, you know, some of the hurdles you're going through beyond the variances and rezoning you might be looking for is, I think, the 24-hour concern, the site lighting at a store such as yours just seems to not necessarily fit with the area, the signage. Now, while it be on the 169 side, I'm not 100% familiar with our signage requirements in the city, but that just doesn't, that seems like it'd be a challenge. The deliveries, this was mentioned before, with both gas and product, your groceries and other products, multiple times a week, probably daily at least, on the deliveries for the groceries and the fresh food you're bringing in. And simply the traffic. I mean, getting in and out of that site, I know I've seen other sites you've done in town, in this area, in our metro area, that logistically are more difficult than this, but after I've been to those, I would drive a little further to find another one to go to. So, but this getting in and off, and it's, you know, it hits residential very quickly. In fact, directly across the street, there's townhomes, and I believe they're townhomes and not condominiums, but either way, a lot of residential right there. Again, which may serve the residential to some degree, but those are just initial comments I had. And I'll just leave it at that, but thank you.
Hi there, just one quick question. I know you mentioned that this store is like a Gen 3 style of store. How much of the design of the convenience side of it is something that you can get more input on? Like, is this like a store and floor plan design that's from the corporate headquarters that, you know, it has to be this dimension, these amount of rows, this is, you know, or is there any flexibility of adding different things and adjusting it just based on the region where you're actually trying to build?
So, great question. So this is the prototype we try and build in every community we build into. Every community is just a little bit different. Some have requests that you have to fit with the character of the neighborhood or the character of the planned unit development that you're in. Or you have some other design features that we have hit in the past if we're able to. I don't like to say this one as an example, but we have a store in Stillwater that's like wood siding and it's yellow. So we can take feedback back to the office and say, hey, these are the design standards that are hard. You have to hit these in this community or you cannot build, and we'll see what we can do, if anything. So to answer your question, this is the cookie cutter floor plan that we try and build everywhere. We have deviated from it. We don't like to. We actually would prefer not to. And the reason being, kind of when you drive down the road, you want to look like a Quick Trip. You want people to see your building and say, oh, that's Quick Trip. Like, I know that building, I know that design. If you have 1,000 different designs, you lose your uniformity and you kind of, your core, yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, the brand is the brand. Target, among other retailers, but the first one that comes to mind, has small format stores. I think I used to live next to the 44th and France node. We walked to the gas station all the time for milk for the kids, for juice, for cereal, for all of those basics. It was a great thing, but it was a very walkable store. I would personally feel like some of our requirements on parking and spacing and distancing makes it more challenging to build the very thing that was so lovely, a small a convenience store with a gas pump. But it's community facing, not highway facing, and I think that's the biggest challenge. You see the traffic on 169 as a possible revenue generator, but this site the community wants it to be for them.
So let me ask you this as a follow-up, and this I'll maybe make this to the commission, maybe you directly. If we have a Gen 2 model which shrinks your store into about 7,100 square feet, The design features on the exterior will be exactly the same. The store will look moderately similar on the interior. You'll probably lose some back office space, you'll lose a little retail space, but it will feel like you're walking into a Quick Trip. Does that make it more palatable to the commission if we shrink the amount of gas pumps?
Yes, to me it does, because I have had an experience with a neighborhood node and a small gas station. Our code currently for gas stations wouldn't let us create, or let you or anyone create what I've experienced, because it's been there for 50 years, but that does seem palatable to me.
Does that Gen 2 come with fewer pumps as well, generally, or?
So the building doesn't. We can shrink the amount of pumps if you guys are, if I'm hearing you, right? You want me to lop off a row of pumps.
And make the store more accessible. All of that parking that you'd have to walk through is what a pedestrian doesn't want to overcome, and it's not, you're navigating all that parking, all the cars coming in and out. It's just not an orientation that faces the neighborhood the same way. And that is driven, I'm sure, in part by our code, but if you're coming in for variances.
Yeah, I guess it's also driven in part by where the only access to the site is. There's only one way in the site. You can't get one off the west side or the south side. You can only come in off the Lincoln Drive side.
Yes, understood.
And I think that's part of the issue with this being a gas station here, is that you can't access off Londonderry Road. You have to go into the neighborhood and drive past all the townhomes to get in there. And I think that's part of the issue, that it brings a lot of traffic into the neighborhood rather than just right off the interstate.
Yes, agreed. But I think any redevelopment user on this lot is going to have the same access point.
Right.
So there's not going to be you cannot avoid that.
Right.
All right. I have a few comments and maybe a couple of questions in there. I just want to thank the rest of the commission so far. I think there's been a lot of good questions and feedback and perspective, and appreciate your perspective and answers so far. I think my first comment is just the irony of timing. I've been on the commission for almost 10 years, and we've done up a number of small area plans, and almost always something comes in like right away, and it isn't necessarily ideal from the vision of the small area plan. So timing-wise, it's kind of ironic, and I'll get back to that. But back to timing, I think if this came 5 years ago, I don't know if we'd have a leg to stand on with a lack of vision. I mean, the reality is this is right off of 169, right at an exit, right where there's a void of this convenience and gas. I mean, to me, when you just look at it on paper, like you guys probably did when you bought it, or got a contract on it, it just checks all the boxes. It looks obvious, like why isn't this there type of thing. So I think there's a reality that the small area plan kind of puts its back on, you know, just to be frank. I mean, this is a small area plan on the border of Edina, on a freeway. There are always going to be this type of competing interests, and as much as we'd want like a nice little neighborhood thing, the reality is it's right on a regional connection, both for a bike trail and for a freeway. So I think whatever we're gonna end up seeing here, whether it is this or some version of this, there is gonna be some sort of thing we're gonna have to wrestle with, from a convenience and access, a regional versus local nature, that some of those other neighborhood nodes we talked about, it's like, when this was called neighborhood node, I'm like, it's different than some of those other ones, like Wooddale Valley View, where you're in the city and you're not on a big set of roadway system. Like, it is different. So you're gonna see potentially things like this. I didn't expect to see it as being the first thing, but that is also another reality, is as we finish the small area plan, there hasn't been something different proposed yet. So, you know, we've had things come before that, you know, weren't as well received, and other areas are around here, and it's just, I just sympathize with you guys. I sympathize with with the rest of the community as well as some commissioners who put together the small area plan. And then you see this, it's not exactly what you'd hope. But I think there are aspects of this project, like even though it's not exactly what you picture, I see Quick Trips in general as convenience station stores. And so if you lopped off the north half of this and enhanced it, like I think there's something there that the community really could rally around. And that's maybe where my perspective's different. I like a 24/7 place where I can go wherever. I'm different than most people, but like we live close to this Holiday. We walk there all the time, not for gas. Quick Trips, I stop almost 95% of the time, not for gas, but for their food and their convenience and the experience. Having this next to a neighborhood I live in, I actually would like that. So I'm different. It doesn't match the small area plan, but there's aspects where, because we got to be careful, like no one's stopping, someone from getting a contract out and proposing something. So the city council could really like aspects of this and push us forward. So how I'm going to spend the rest of my time is just kind of giving specific examples of what could make this way more palatable for me. That'd be shrinking at least one bay of the pumps. I think the community would risk, some of the queuing for just less vehicle presence. I would move I guess the trash location, like Director Teague said, to that west side and really just build like the nicest landscape patio type of community aspect kind of down that east side, southeast corner and south side, where that draws a community in and is a place to hang out. Because I mean, you guys got great food and great experience. Like if I lived by there, I'd be getting stuff and eating there. I mean, if there wasn't other choices. And then one of the variances I'd support for sure would be pushing this site as far to the west along the interstate on-ramp as possible. And I'd probably do that for whatever is proposed here, not just Quick Trip. Just get as much of the traffic and density and use and intensity farther from Lincoln Drive, just more from a visual standpoint where you create more of a buffer. So, yeah, you have other comments?
Since we're talking about things that could make it better, I think you might have to get rid of 2 sets of pumps to get anyone to really consider it. Also, the squares and the squiggles, I guess that's where your drainage is, or you're on the north side of the site closest to the drive.
Yeah, so can you guys see this? If I use, no, I can't.
Oh, yeah, you can.
So right here, these are underground storage tanks for fuel. That's where those are buried. And farther to the north of there is drainage storage.
So I would heavily consider how we can reorient things to be more efficient so we don't have quite as much concrete, so that it is more inviting to bikers and pedestrians. And if the gas is the afterthought because you're a convenience store company, right now it's the pavement associated with it is taking up 3/4 of the site.
Yes, agreed. I think that we'll probably have the same amount of pavement if you have 10 or 8 or probably even 6 pumps, or you'll just be getting fuel delivery way more frequently.
Well, yes, but there are lots of architects who can figure out how to make that be on a smaller footprint.
We'll play around with it. I don't love 6, 8. I think we can do easily. 6, I think that there's going to be too much demand for 6, and you will have congestion on site. And if that kicks us to no, that's fine, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess just the last of my comments is the size. I mean, the reality is, like Commissioner Padilla mentioned, this site is just different than the other local neighborhood convenient shops that have gas pumps there. This is a bigger site, so you got it. Why wouldn't you use it? I guess, again, like what I would want to see is just a much uncomfortable shift for you toward more green space and like landscape type of amenity that just draws some sort of gathering place besides in your store, even though it's only half the year.
Yeah, we can play around with that too. I mean, the one option is we were, I guess, directed to maybe lay it out like this. We could try and laying it out with the loading and the dumpster enclosure on the opposite side. So you have it on the west side instead of the east side of the building. The east side can be parking or green space or patio or tables or whatever. And I guess you can probably replace that parking you're going to lose with where the patios currently are now. We'll play around with that and maybe see what it looks like.
And I guess, I mean, again, I'm not really focused on the store side. I feel like if you had, again, if it were more of a 7-Eleven and just convenience totally focused without gas, I mean, I think it's a much easier lift. So store size isn't an issue for me if it serves more of the neighborhood, meaning you have more options, more variety, more grocery. That's the kind of stuff that we would want commercially.
I have a question for staff. Carrie, do you have somewhere on the rendering we sent along that maybe looks like a mock landscape plan? No, there were 2 PDFs. One kind of looks like a, check your email. Okay.
Yeah, I just welcome other discussion points. I just sympathize with the timing. We had this with every small area plan where there'd be something proposed that just wasn't quite ideal. Most of them got approved. This one I'd say is less ideal unless we saw a dramatically different approach, but totally respect that you're trying to put, I mean, a Gen 3 that like fits this site. I mean, why wouldn't you propose that? And I guess that's our role here, is to try to push against that and really focus and harness the convenience side. If this does go through and the city council supports it ultimately, we have to be prepared for what type of recommendations we'd want to see.
I don't think you need to sympathize with us. I mean, we're here getting this feedback for
Yeah.
a good purpose, right?
Yeah.
We need to know this if we want to move forward or not. And this has been great for us. So don't worry about us.
Any other questions, feedback, discussion between the commission?
Yeah.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah. So really good back and forth Q&A and discussion by the team. If I were to kind of put this in perspective, are we saying that it's not a no, but it's a try to adjust it and come back with something that might be more palatable? Or is it a complete no?
He's just
Is just non-binding feedback, but I would say there's some sentiment that's probably more of a no and more of a kind of. And certainly in the community and probably among the council too. I mean, it's just conjecture now, but we're not here to say necessarily yes or no. It's really non-binding feedback for the proposed request. Yeah. So, I mean, feel free to add on, especially you guys as the co-chairs of the small area plan.
No, Lou was the chair. We were just on the working.
I'm co-chairs before it got changed.
Yeah, for a quick minute. I do appreciate Commissioner Smith and you, Chair Bennett, talking about the could-bes, because we haven't had a lot come before us on this. And, you know, the small area plan is kind of loose. And so any kind of feedback about what might be palatable, I really appreciate. And interesting, I mean, I go to different food stores than you guys do, but I mean, I could see a convenience store that had like a lot of pop-ups or supported a lot of local places really being popular over in this area, because I think you do have to drive far to go to a grocery store or get something. So I could see a use for convenience there. So I appreciate that.
I thought of a question for the applicant. Do you guys have electric vehicle chargers? Is that part of your programming?
It's being rolled out as we speak.
So the idea of having a place to go charge my car and I run in and I do 10, 20 minutes of grocery shopping or whatever, that to me speaks more neighborhood versus somebody just stopping by to use the bathroom on the way up 169.
I will caution you on that. I think that most people who live in this neighborhood are going to charge their car at their house. I think if we start advertising charging stations at this location off 169, it will be a lot of 169 traffic if that is there. But we can add it if you guys want to see it added.
I think there's a lot of people who live in apartment buildings and things that don't charge their cars at their house.
Commissioner Day, you had some?
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, when you mentioned the 7-Eleven, that is something that we kind of talked about during the small area plan, as like a convenience store without the gas element, and that could be really nice, right? And I know, again, Quick Trip fulfills a lot of that same basic functionality, but one thing I wanted to talk about was, you know, go back to the vision piece, the vision statement for the Lincoln Londonderry small area plan. And the biggest conflict in my mind is talking about how, you know, being sustainably designed, eco-friendly amenities with natural beauty, and how that interfaces with 9 Mile Creek being right there and everything else. Big gas station with bright LED lights and a big sign is again, kind of really in conflict with what we had envisioned there in terms of how we lay this out, right? We do want there to be amenities. We do want there to be something that serves the community. But again, it was a lot of, you know, the eco-friendly piece blending in with nature, green, more walkable, bikeable, right? This is pure car driven. You know, a lot of traffic, a lot more traffic than what people had expressed interest in seeing come into the community, right? I know you said, you know, tens of thousands of gallons a week, right? I did quick math. If you say an average 15-gallon tank, right? A 15-gallon tank, it's, you know, it's several thousand cars in a week, right, coming through. And you divide by 7, it's several, you know, several hundred per day. And it's just, that's just, you know, the reality of, you know, when we had the discussions with the community, they said we're really concerned about that. When there was traffic on 169, we had a lot of people coming through. I'm not sure what that is. But yeah, so again, it's just being, you know, a community node, green, easily walkable, bikeable, et cetera, and integrating well with the 9 Mile Creek area. And it's just not quite there for me with this, right? And again, I think it's definitely good to have the discussion about how can we make it more palatable and make it more community focused. I just, it's too high of a hurdle in my mind. And I did have a question for Carrie, actually. Has Three Rivers Park District like reached out at all about this and given its proximity to 9 Mile Creek?
On this specific proposal,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, just wondering.
So got another couple questions. So, and again, I mentioned this and mentioned the recommendations because it wasn't on the heels of the Grandview, but when that Caribou got proposed, I think the commission shut it down 8-1 and it got approved. And we didn't focus much on what could have made it better. So again, just, I think back to like providing non-binding feedback for this proposal, like should it go through, like just want to make sure everyone like says their piece. Another comment that came to mind and prompted by this note is, and you brought up like the light pollution. So one thing that I know we would want differently, especially with this like this neighborhood thing right on a regional connection, is like focus on the sign and its lights, and like however, like you need to be able to speak to like mitigating light pollution, especially at night and away from the neighborhood.
And we can do that now, I suppose. You're going to get a full photometric plan with our civil design that shows that there is no light pollution off-site. The buzzword is the adjacent properties are going to, the foot candle is zeroed out at our lot line. So that's not to say that the residents here can't look out and see a Quick Trip, but their properties will not be illuminated by our signage or our lights or our canopy or whatever.
And I guess on that, I mean, there's other stations where, you know, the convenience shuts down, pumps run on, lights dim a notch, you know, where it looks a little more closed, but it's still open. So, I mean, I know people would be very encouraged if that type of strategy was done, not necessarily being closed, but taking things even down a notch from what you visibly see. I mean, make sure it's safe, but don't illuminate it in like to a level that I think we all picture would worry people living right by there.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, you're looking at we have a
please
team that
speak
put
to
a,
it. Yeah.
a rendering kind of put together. It looks like a lot of concrete when you just see the sketch plan. So when you kind of see it with a little bit of landscaping and grass, it maybe looks a little bit different than what you saw. Maybe you disagree. Yeah, okay.
I think you should go look at the small neighborhood node gas stations and then be prepared to explain why you can't do that. Because this is a huge site, so it's a lot more concrete.
Okay, I'll do that.
And I guess that'd go to the recommendation I'd still have and like staff had about relocating that dumpster in that southeast corner. I mean, that to me is, it's kind of what some of the other projects we've seen at like a gateway to an area. This is definitely a gateway property to this small area plan in a way. And that southeast corner to me is like the welcome from the neighborhood. So instead of seeing a dumpster right there, that's, you know, like in that next proposal, like shifting that and really just really enhancing a community gathering place and landscape and stuff that you wouldn't typically see at a Quick Trip, like at all, but something that would have to be incorporated into this to even reach a level that some would support, and for some of us definitely not support, but that's what I'd recommend.
I guess I'm a little hung up on why everyone wants to have it shrunk. I mean, I get why we want it shrunk so much, but the existing service providers kind of in this general market they're difficult to navigate in and around. I know you guys say you go there and there's always pump. Maybe you like that, yeah.
We do like that because we're Edina. We're not, and I didn't grow up here, I'm not from here, but there's something niche here, right? Galleria doesn't exist in Dayton or the other cities you were. Southdale doesn't exist, like 50th in France. All of those pieces of the identity are not cookie cutter stamped that work in other suburbs. And so if you want a cookie cutter stamp what works in other suburbs, in this site especially, I think it's going to have a lot of resistance. I think that's why those gas stations survived where they did and why they became neighborhood nodes, because they were serving that community and became a part of that ecosystem. If this convenience store was pushed closer to Lincoln Drive and there was a second entrance there and benches and people were gathering there, or you just had a lot more green space and fewer stalls and fewer parking spaces because you don't really need them, but you know, like that's the kind of thing that exists now and it works and people like it and use it. This doesn't exist and may not work in the city, let alone here.
And I think it might be, I mean, your business plan, you want to kind of make the most money you can on the side, and right, so you've suggested a G3 store. I mean, I could see this working up on Excelsior on 169 where there's a lot of commercial around it, but I think for me, this is right next to residential. It's got residential all along that west side, and it's a residential entrance into a neighborhood. There's commercial on the north and south of this, but because of all that residential on the east side of it, is the incongruity to me between the size of this and the neighborhood. And I kind of feel like if it got small enough to make sense, it wouldn't be commercially viable to Quick Trip. Yeah.
I guess a question for you, Commissioner Felt, is like, say there were no gas pumps, you know, and we're just looking at the convenient store. Do you still feel that way about location? Just to kind of tease, I mean, there's a tension here, right? Again.
Right. Well, one of the things that everyone in the apartment complex wanted was some place to go get beer so they can go back to the pool. Right? And not drive down to Eden Prairie or something like that. So that's where the idea of the convenience store kind of came from. So a place to kind of grab something and hang out, I'd be much more for it. It's the 10 pumps that are bothering me.
Any other discussion or questions, comments, staff or developer? Do you have any questions for us?
No,
or?
I mean, I think this has been lively, more lively than I probably was anticipating. I think the existing gas stations in this community were built the way they were built because that was what the industry was at the time of their construction. This is what the industry is now, and I don't think there's been a new gas station constructed in Edina in many, many years. Somebody have that data, Carrie?
I do. It was 1999. It's now a holiday station off of Highway 100 and Edina Industrial Boulevard by the Dairy Queen.
And before that, do you have any idea?
Before that, I don't know.
Back, gas and convenience users used to locate on very tiny parcels of land with very limited pumps. They're called dive-in pumps. You're facing parallel to the store at an angle. Kind of the Holiday on Vernon is parallel to the store. Probably the 54th and France is on, angled. The Holiday by me is on right below the 58th, and Xerxes is angled, which is kind of a pain to get in and out of. So this is the new industry standard. That's why it's shown.
Well, if that's it, that's it. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
you're
your
welcome.
time.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate your interest in Edina, and we support business and just trying to align vision with a certain area and your vision, and hopefully it can be a little more compatible. Maybe not, but good luck at City Council. When will this be before them?
This will go to City Council next Tuesday.
Sometimes what we've seen, and I mean, is we see tweaks to this based on our feedback by the time it gets to council. We recommend considering that too. I mean, just so then you get a level of either more buy-in or something closer, that before the formal submission, you have an extra level of feedback that you can work with. So I'd take, even this landscape plan and do something different. Take our feedback if you have time to make some tweaks, even if they're pretty basic. That'll help you and help the community. Any other questions, comments, anything? All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our reports and recommendations and sketch plan. I want to thank the community for attending and listening and being patient. And we're on to chair and member comments. Do we have any? Yeah, Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, so I think the last Planning Commission meeting, we talked about the ADU, just communicating the status of where we are. So in the Sun Current tomorrow, you guys should be seeing an article coming out, just sharing with the neighborhood kind of the current state. So, yeah.
Thank you, Quincy. Commissioner Padilla.
I don't know how many people got a chance to go to the open house, the firehouse grand opening. It was great. It's a wonderful facility. It was so much fun. They offered so many things for people of all age, children of all ages. And I mean, it's my hope that they have an open house once a year, because it's I mean, they don't have to do it on Halloween, but, I mean, just to educate, show everybody in the community what's there. It's something, I think it's another, jewel in the community, and it's something everybody should be proud of. And the more you see of it, and the more you get to walk around and take a tour, the better you feel about it. Your safety and the community.
I'll say it opened just in time, because that morning of the open house, there was a fire at the apartment building right across the street. And so the fire chief showed pictures to us and was saying that it was at shift change, so some of the firefighters actually just grabbed their gear and ran over there from the fire station rather than getting on the truck. So just in time, and they were able to contain that fire pretty well because of its proximity to fire station too. So interesting tidbit there too.
And I'm just going to add on, there's a community room there that the public can, I'm sure they've got some guidelines, but the public can reserve. And it'd be a great way to see the building.
It was an incredible investment by everyone in the community too. So, I mean, might as well make use of it and celebrate it. It was beautiful. Any other comments from members? Okay. Move to staff comments.
I would anticipate that we use that community room with our next comprehensive plan. As those who have been involved in previous comprehensive plans, we have a lot of meetings away from City Hall, so I would anticipate that we'll use that space. The City Council has not met since the last time the Planning Commission met due to the election, so no report today. That's it.
Thank you. One last item of business. Oh, or is that a question for staff?
Well,
Or you really want to
question
adjourn?
for the staff of the community, because you might know the latest. Any updates on opening the ramps at 50th and 100?
I do have an update on that.
Okay.
They will be open this Friday at midnight. So Saturday, all access off the ramps here should be a go.
We'll be there at 12:01 to celebrate. Yet the railroad bridge is sitting till spring. So it's like a half clap from me, honestly. It's a big half clap.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Meeting's been adjourned. Thank you, everyone.